Hello everyone, my name is Slade, I'll be your host, and welcome to Star Wars Did You Know? Before we start today's video, just to make everyone aware, this is part 2 of a 2-part series on the character Demagol. If you want to see part 1, there will be a link in the description below. Thank you. I contribute to the cause in my own way. Finding the source of the so-called Force talents will be the key to negating them, or replicating them. Upon assuming the role of Demagol, Antos Wyrick became the Mandalorian's chief scientist. In this role, he was responsible for the study of conquered species, as well as the study of Jedi and their force powers, which enabled him to a very limited extent to continue his already ruined research. It was in this role as chief scientist for the Mandalorian Crusades that Demagol came across a young Arcanian offshoot woman named Jerial. Demagol immediately suspected that Jerial might be one of his lost students. Presumed dead or enslaved, she seemed to have fallen right into his lap at the opportune moment. During the escape attempt by Jerial and her allies, Demagol was able to overcome and subdue the fellow Mandalorian Roland Dyer and assume his personality and armor, enabling him to escape with Jerial and her friends. Using this new assumed role, Antos Wyrick stayed close to Jerial, doing his best to prove himself as a valuable ally to both her and her friends in an attempt to gain her trust. Throughout the following weeks, he'd have many adventures with the group, and repeatedly show that he was willing to do anything to protect Jerial and the secrets she might be holding. After several months of travel, Demagol's suspicions were finally confirmed when Jerial's past with the Crucible as a slave was revealed to the group as a whole. Capitalizing on doubts sown within the group, Demagol was able to isolate and eventually convince Jerial to accompany him to the school on Osadia, where it all began in the hopes of finding her fellow students and his other test subjects. It was in this moment that he dropped the mask of Roland Dyer and Demagol both, revealing himself to be Antos Wyrick once more, and confirming to Jerial that he was the one who had both raised and experimented upon her and the many other children at the school of Osadia before their capture by the Crucible. Returning to Osadia in the hopes of finding Jerial's classmates and salvaging Antos Wyrick's work, they would be confronted by Wyrick's daughter, Shantique, who would reveal to her father that she had killed the other students, one by one, in a ritual conducted by the Crucible. In the midst of this horrifying revelation, Wyrick came to realize that he had been wrong about Jerial. She was not the Force-sensitive offshoot he had presumed, but instead, he himself had been Force-sensitive, and his own desire to see Jerial's Force powers had unconsciously led him to use his powers to enable her to seemingly appear Force-sensitive. Enraged both by the murder of his students by his daughter and by the revelation that Jerial was in fact useless to him, Antos Wyrick and his daughter Shantique entered into a bloody battle, one in which Wyrick would kill Shantique. However, he had not realized the lightsaber he was using against his own daughter was a double-bladed one, and in her last moments she depressed the activation stud, activating the second blade and impaling both herself and her father. Demagol died. That is, Antos Wyrick died, somewhat ironically, in the arms of the daughter he had discarded. Antos Wyrick and Demagol's legacy would not be the one that he had hoped for. He would not go on to find the secret of Jedi Force powers, or create an army of Force-sensitive Mandalorians. Instead, as centuries went on, he would be remembered by all Mandalorians as a monster, his name becoming a new word, Demagolka, one that invoked stories of atrocities and horrors committed against children. It was a name that would echo throughout the millennia, and the psyche of the Mandalorian people. One that was to be avoided, and used only in the most dire of circumstances to describe the most heinous of acts. Alright everyone, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to like and subscribe. There'll be more content coming. If you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, please do so. Every little bit helps. Until next time, this is your host Slade, and this has been Star Wars Did You Know?